Fear Not, Episode 82. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today you and I are going to be joined by Kprasad. Welcome, Kiran. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Billy. It's really wonderful to be here.
Are you ready to fear not?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Billy.
Kiran is a teacher by profession with a master's degree in the teaching of reading and language arts. She has taught all ages of students, including at the college level, always focusing on the ones who are most at risk of failing. In her last teaching position, she specialized in working with students with dyslexia. Kiran is also the author of A Mindful Move, Feel at Home Again. It's for anyone struggling with a difficult move, especially if you are relocating for the first time. Her book will take you through the stages of transition and offer ways to cope with relocation grief, loneliness, homesickness, depression, loss of identity, and so much more. Her book is essentially about finding a sense of home again within your new environment, as well as in yourself. Kiran, could you take a few moments to fill in the gaps and maybe give us a brief glimpse of your personal life as well?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I'm currently an empty nester living in Portland, Oregon with my husband. As you've mentioned, I've moved so many times, and Portland has been the best city I've ever lived in, really. It's got everything except for the weather. That's something I would change. And although I complain about the weather a lot, it's been great as a writer because it rains a lot, keeps me indoors writing. Now, when I'm not writing, I love to curl up with a good book or movie. And in this beautiful part of Oregon, I love to take short hikes and travel. But most of all, I've got to say, I love to spend quality time with my husband and my two grown-up children.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Kiran, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Yes, I will, happily. One of my greatest fears in life has been and still is deep water and drowning. And, I can take you through a journey about how I think I developed this fear and how it's affected my life. And strangely enough, this journey begins with a journey. It was started when I was 2 years old, and my family relocated us from India to England. And I have no recollection of it, but my family tell me that we went by sea, by ship, on a 13-day voyage. And my older sister remembers some of it, and she tells me that it was very hazardous conditions for a while because a volcano erupted in the region. And she remembers the ship rocking to and fro, and also some announcement saying that everybody needed to put on their life jackets, which must have been quite scary. In the end, it turned out to be not so bad in the end, but you can imagine the panic that must have spread across the ship. And my parents with 3 kids under 10. And that's why I wonder, looking back, did the fear stem from this journey? And then I had a terrifying dream when I was maybe 8 or a young child. I was in London, England at the time in my dream and in reality as a young child, and London was flooding. People were evacuating the place. All the neighbors were piling up their cars with all their stuff. And I remember looking out from my front door, and there was a huge, like a tsunami type of wave coming from at the end of the street and people screaming. But it was too late for them to escape, and my dream ended there. And then in school, I remember dreading swimming lessons. It was something we had to do. And I remember just hating it. My heart would pound. I would feel sick to the stomach. My legs, sorry, my legs would turn to jello. I would be shaking like a leaf sometimes. And we were expected to do a length of the pool. And I was okay doing a length. But as long as I was clinging to the side, I could do that, clinging to the side for safety. As for diving in, there was no way I could do that because I might end up underwater. And then from there, as I told you, I live in Portland, Oregon, and it's somewhere where kayaking and paddleboarding is a very popular sport. And I don't know if all our listeners know what paddleboarding is. It's all I can describe it as. It's like being on a surfboard with your one foot strapped onto it, and you have to stand up for balance, and you use one oar to paddle the thing. And so that was something I'd always wanted to do, and I used to watch people gliding along. It looks so peaceful and beautiful. And eventually, one day when we went on a family vacation to Lake Tahoe, my family wanted to do this, to try both these things. And I decided, okay, maybe I can be brave and try it, especially since we had double kayaks. And I sat in the back with my husband, but I was too scared to let him take me out into the really choppy parts. But on the whole, Lake Tahoe was very pristine and clear and calm, so I felt comfortable. But I kept very close to the shore where people were swimming, because just that it was a sense of comfort, and it was shallow there. And as it turned out, both these things, I managed to do them. I was amazed at myself that I'm inside a kayak and I'm on a paddleboard. Look at me. And it turned out I'm really good at paddleboarding, in fact, better than most of my family. I felt so proud and empowered and liberated. And then from there, I moved on to doing a few other things, because I started, snorkeling with, I got over my fear of going on a cruise. And I recently went on a cruise with my daughter. I was very scared at first because, images of the Titanic sinking, but I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and even went on a stingray adventure with her in the sea, snorkeling with stingrays and feeding them. It was again by the shore. It was very choppy, and many water sports had been canceled for that reason. I must admit, I had a life jacket on, and I was holding on to dear life to a life preserver, or life buoy, as we call it in England. I just couldn't believe I was doing it. I was exhilarated, the fact that I was doing it. Something I forgot to say earlier, sorry, was that it's really ironic that my husband loves water and water sports. And really on our honeymoon was the first story, kayaking in the sea. He wanted me to kayak in the sea, but I wouldn't. I was afraid of capsizing. I was fine rowing on a calm lake, but so I didn't want to do this. And that's how I would avoid lots of things because of my fear, and just couldn't enjoy life fully, the opportunities I had. And on this boat, so instead of the kayak, we decided to go on a boat excursion on the Mediterranean Sea. And I remember the boat pulled up to close to the shore, and they told everyone in the boat, why don't you dive out and then make your way to shore? And it was so embarrassing. It was just an elderly man who couldn't swim, and I can swim, but I just couldn't dive out there. And we were left on the boat. I missed out on a wonderful opportunity.
So, what do you do? Because you said that you still are afraid of water, but yet you're still doing all these water activities. So, what is the process that gets you to do that? Are you thinking something? Are you studying something? Are you referring to something that helps you just to take action?
Well, what it is I started working through my fear, facing it head on, because I thought, I'm missing out on so much in life. And although it terrified me, I thought, this is what I'll do, is to um, step by step, just one step, baby step at a time, gradually, and repeating that exposure again and again. And some of the other things I do just to face other general fears is being a writer. I like to write my way through my fear. I prepare well or inform myself about the thing I fear. I might do positive self-talk, helps me. I tell myself, you can do this. You've got through something like this, tougher things than this before. I use breathing and meditation techniques to relax me and help me stay in the present moment. I visualize myself succeeding. That's another great technique I use because usually we do the opposite. However, the reality of doing something is usually not as bad as what we anticipate it to be. So all these kind of things, they really help me.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Yes, absolutely.
What individual, whether they be fiction or real, has made the most impact in your life?
I would say that has to be Dr. Wayne Dyer. I love all his books. I've read many of his books. I've been to some of his talks. They've really helped me in very difficult times. And his speech from his book by that name, 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. And one of those secrets is don't die with your music still in you. Those words, along with when I attended my mum's funeral not too long ago, it really propelled me into going forward and completing and publishing my book, my first book, because it just made me think life is short and you've just got to do it.
And if you could instantly change one thing in the world, what's that change going to be?
That change would be, well, I'm somebody who's lived and traveled across the world. I see myself as a global citizen, and I believe in the oneness of the universe. And what really hurts me right now in our present economic climate is just the divisiveness and the hatred that is just spreading across the world. It's really tough to maintain hope and a sense of belonging, especially for expats like me, for everybody really, and just I would change that, this divisiveness and hatred that's coming about.
What's your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness, I would say, you might have noticed through this podcast, is I love to talk and I find it harder to listen. I love to speak more than listen. So that's something I'm trying to improve and work on. I know I need to improve on that.
What's your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is, I've got to say, empathy. I've always been told that as well by people, that I have a huge amount of empathy, probably more than many people. I've been blessed with that. It is a gift to be able to totally put myself in someone else's shoes, although sometimes it feels like a curse. Um, but because I feel so much for others, I naturally want to help people and be there for them in some way.
And if you could only have one book, what book is that going to be?
Oh, you mean read one book?
Yeah, if you could just have one book for the rest of your life to read over and over again.
Oh, I love that question because I love to read, and it'd be hard to choose one, but I think it would have to be a self-help book because I mostly read self-help books. And I'm thinking Mark Nepo, the Book of Awakening, which has got daily messages of hope and inspiration. His book has a message for every single day of the year. So I think if I had just one book, that would be great.
And do you have a favorite sound?
Oh, yes, absolutely, I do. Um, Although I love the sound of the flute, it's so peaceful and beautiful. I would say that my favorite sound would have to be a sound from nature, the sound of the sea. And isn't that strange and ironic that although I fear the sea, my favorite sound and what really soothes me and it's relaxing and calming, but that would have to be a very gentle ebbing and flowing of the waves.
And if someone would like to connect with you, Kiran, what's the best way for them to do that?
That would be through my author website, where they can also learn more about my book, A Mindful Move. They could read my blog about transition and change, health and healing, and some tips on writing and publishing. My website is my full name. So if you take my name, Kiran Prasad, and you add Jas, Jas, at the beginning of the first name, jaskiranprasad.com. That's my website, and you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter under the same name.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
I would say just go face your fears head on, step by step, though. Life is short. Take a few deep breaths and take steps to overcome your fears. You're really missing out so much, so many wonderful opportunities like I did for so long if you don't. Just go live life to the full.
That's excellent advice indeed, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I also want to let everyone know, too, that Kiran has generously donated a copy of her book, A Mindful Move. So if you would like an opportunity to win that book, visit the giveaways page at livingbeyondyourfears.com to submit your free entry form today. Kiran, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us today and sharing your story and how you deal with fear.
Thank you so much, Billy. It was wonderful. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.